If you've been following me long enough, you know that I was a Japanese exchange student, meaning I was American and I went to Japan for a year as an exchange student. This was immediately after high school, so I didn't have to worry about my credits transferring or not because I had already graduated. It really was sort of a sabbatical, just so that I could learn the language and learn the culture and have a year abroad. I think everybody should do it in the entire world. I think everybody at some point in their younger life should spend a year in another country. It gives you a whole new perspective about yourself and the world at large. And it's one of those life-changing experiences that everyone tells you about. And it has been now almost 20 years since I lived in Japan, and there are still some aspects of life there that I miss. So I thought I would talk about these things that I miss
in list form because that's clickbaity.
So here we go. The first thing that I miss is the sense of wonder. This is just like everything is new. You feel like a kid again, and I know I didn't appreciate that as much when I was younger. I was 18 when I was there, so I was still kind of a kid. As an adult, like the older and older you get, the more you're just like, God, I miss like being super interested in things and like super interested in discovering new things. Like I'm still interested in it, but I find just the older you get, the less interesting things are. So this thing that I miss is not so much about being in Japan specifically, but about being younger and being in Japan. But still, like, yeah, being in a new country and just everything is new. Everything is just so much more interesting. Like life, it's just sort of like somebody turned the color up on your life, or they turned the contrast bar up on your life, and everything is just so much more interesting and new every single day. Okay, number two, this isn't necessarily, again, a Japan-specific thing, but more a living out of 2 suitcases for a year thing. I miss knowing exactly what I have and where it all is. This really says something about the whole minimalist movement, and it just really was nice, like only having 2 suitcases full of things. A lot of it was manga, and just knowing everything that I had and where it was. It was less stressful, just in general, to have less things in my life. Yeah, this is a little more Japan-centric. Reading manga all the time, I really miss that. I read, no exaggeration, I read at least 3 full volumes of manga every single day, and that was a huge part of what helped my fluency in Japanese. Yeah, I miss reading that much manga every day, and I miss, again, just like being super into it because manga was still kind of new to me. I had like been more of an anime geek, and then I really started getting into manga when I was in Japan. Now, contrary to popular belief, anime is actually not really popular in Japan. It's kind of the same level of popularity there as it is in the States. It's a geek niche kind of thing, but it's not really mainstream. The shows that air during prime time are a little more mainstreamy, like your Cardcaptor Sakura, your Sailor Moon, your Gundam. Actually, I don't know if Gundam is mainstream. Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, all of those are more mainstream totally, just like they're mainstream in the States. But what is more mainstream in Japan is manga. Like all my classmates just about read manga, and you always see people exchanging manga. I even exchanged some manga with another one of my classmates, and I just read so much manga, and I miss having there wasn't any in my city because I lived in a smaller town, but I also missed the used bookshops where you could get like a used manga for 100 yen, which is like, at the time it was less than $1, which is super, super cheap. And I could just rack up all these manga and read manga all the time. Another reason I was able to do that, admittedly, is that I didn't have to earn a bunch of money for a living. This is a very Japan-centric one, and, well, Iwate-centric. But I do miss various people that were there, but definitely, most of all, my first host mom and host grandmother. I spent the majority of my time with my first host family. Like, Rotary likes to rotate you between host families so you get a taste of what other families are like. So you're not like with the one family and you think, oh, this is what all Japanese families are like. And I'm glad they do that, and I liked and appreciated having my other host families, but the first one I totally bonded with a lot more than the others, and I stayed with them longer than I was supposed to, and I kept going back to them in between other host families. But yeah, my first host mom, she was just so sweet, so selfless. And she also naturally spoke really slowly, so I could super understand her all the time. But yeah, I loved going on her daily errands with her. She was a housewife, but the housewife of a man who ran his own maternity clinic, like right next door to the house, literally. So she was the housewife, but she also was sort of like the co-manager of the clinic, and she arranged meals and other things for all the nurses there, and like that already is a huge job. But yeah, every day she would go shopping in the morning for food for all the meals, and then she'd like leave the order with them and they would deliver the food later in the day, and that was always fun. And then my host grandma, I loved her because she was so spry and just so full of life, even though she was this old lady. And what I loved most about her was like watching her play Tetris, and I loved playing Tetris too, but like she'd be sitting in seiza with her legs tucked under her and back straight and on the tatami mat, and then she'd be playing Tetris and she'd do that with the controller and yell at the screen, and it was really, really cute. Alright, this is definitely Japan-centric, and I have no idea why this still hasn't caught on in the Western world, but kotatsu. I super, super miss kotatsu. I am a firm believer, just like the Japanese, in heat the person, not the room. Even at home nowadays, instead of using heaters, I tend to either use a space heater right next to me if it's super cold, or my favorite thing to do actually is just put a heating pad under me. Like, I perpetually have a sore back anyway, so a heating pad under there keeps me warm and also helps my back feel better. Win-win. But yeah, kotatsu, if you don't know, it is a coffee table basically that has a heating element under it, and then like you put a comforter on top of the table and then a solid panel on top of the comforter. So it's like table, comforter, tabletop, so it's like a sandwich. And then you slide your legs and feet under the heating element, and it's super, super warm under there, and it's super cozy. Like, the room itself can be cold, and it usually is in the winter time, especially where I live because it snowed there, but it was nice and cozy because of the kotatsu. While we're on the subject of Japanese luxuries that I don't know why we don't have them in the West yet, toilets! I love Japanese toilets, and everyone who has experienced Japanese toilets will tell you the same. Yes, the traditional Japanese toilets are kind of awkward, the squat toilets. I do not miss those, but I do very much miss the modern style toilets that you'll find. A lot of houses I went to had these, like even in the country, they had these like super space age, to me, space age toilets. The heated seats, the bidet, it's just so awesome, and I really miss those. Another thing that I miss that is not really Japan-centric, I think you'll see this in other parts of Asia too, but I just love how positive their media is. Not by media, I don't mean like the news and reporters and stuff, but I mean if you just turn on the TV and there's a commercial on, or there's some quiz TV show or something on, like everyone is super bright and genki and they're just like laughing all the time, and it's just so happy, and especially the commercials. One of my professors put it this way. He said, in the West, especially the United States, a commercial usually focus on our product is cool because our competitor sucks. But in Japan, it's more like, our product is just so cool. Look how happy and bubbly and free it makes you. Look how it makes you fly around with cartoon cats and stars and hearts. It's more like that kind of feel, and I love how just positive their media is, and it just makes you feel cheesy and happy all the time. This is by no means Japan-centric, but I really miss the snow. I live in California, in a part of California where it does not snow. Story time. They all assumed, just because I was from California, that I had not only never seen snow, but that there was no snow in California, which is totally false. Some of you guys might have heard of Lake Tahoe. That's in California, folks, and there is a ton of snow there. From where I live currently, it's January right now, and actually we're in a horrible drought, so the snow is bad right now. There like is no snow. But if it weren't droughty, if it were a normal year, I could drive about an hour up the hill right now and I would see snow. It's not that far away from me. And I have been to the snow, I've gone skiing, I've built snowmen, I've tobogganed, you know, I've totally seen snow. But I miss living in a place that actually has snow. I love sitting indoors and sipping cocoa or tea and watching the snow just falling outside. I miss like waking up the next morning and having a fresh blanket of snow on everything. I miss looking at the weather forecast to see like the little snow marks in the days. Yeah, I miss the snow, and I really would in the future like to live in a place where there's snow. All right, I'm just gonna call this one beef, is what I miss. I miss some of the Japanese foods, but beef really is one that's near and dear to my heart. I was fortunate enough to live in Iwate Prefecture, which is known for its beef, and I was also fortunate enough to live with well-off Rotarians who could afford the nice beef. So I miss their beef so much. Like, they don't know how to cook steak over there. Let's be real. At least when I was over there, they don't know how to brown meat. Like, they'll just kind of, when they cook their steak, they just kind of cook it on either side, and it's gray and there's no color on it. They at least know that you're not supposed to cook it all the way through. They know that part, and they know you're supposed to season it, but they don't know about browning, which is like, oh, come on, how do you not know about browning steak? But in spite of all of this, like, I swear, some of the most delicious steak I ever had was cooked at home, just because their beef, the quality of it is so good. So marbled, so soft, so flavorful. And it was so good, in fact, that when I came back to America for the first 2 years at least, I just couldn't eat beef because it was just so flavorless and tough and just not good. I kind of switched over to lamb for a few years, just because like beef here is just not great if it's mass produced. I have since learned that yeah, you can get good beef here in the United States, you just have to pay a lot more for it, which is fair because the good beef in Japan you also have to pay a lot of money for. I think really beef should be a special treat. We should eat a lot less beef and it should just be higher quality. Another thing I miss is karaoke. I have since learned, I mean, it is kind of catching on here in the States. You'll find usually Korean karaoke places, and I have been to some of them. But yeah, I really miss just karaoke and the karaoke culture. It's so common over in Japan. Like over here, I have to kind of sometimes pull my friends along, like, come on, let's go to karaoke, and they're not as much on board because it's a very different kind of culture and thing. Like in America, people who go to karaoke often, they either have to be really super drunk, or like if they're gonna sing, they have to consider themselves good singers, and it's like, I'm going to karaoke to show off or whatever. In Japan, it's just a social thing. Everybody sings karaoke, it's not a big deal, and they do it frequently. And I just really love that. I love that there's karaoke places everywhere. I love the private room. I love ordering drinks and little snacks in. And then I love having the selection of J-pop and anime songs to sing to. That's one thing I don't like when I go to karaoke places here, is that I'm just not that knowledgeable on American popular music. And to be fair, I'm not really knowledgeable on Japanese pop either. I'm only knowledgeable on J-pop from like 1999 to 2002. So oldies, I guess. But yeah, I miss having that selection where I actually know a lot more of the songs and have a lot more to choose from. I do miss Matsuri. I just really like, again, Matsuri in Japan, they're really just light and happy. We have stuff sort of like Matsuri in America. I guess like county fairs and stuff are sort of like Matsuri, but to me, Japanese Matsuri, it's kind of more about going there at night, so I don't have to worry about the annoying hot sun because I hate sun. It's more about just walking around in a yukata and it's nighttime and there's delicious food to be eaten. I also really like the omikoshi, and I also really love like Mizusawa Matsuri. Like I lived in Mizusawa and they had their Matsuri, I think it was April, and I was blown away because they had this group. It must have been 100 dancers from all over the prefecture, and they performed this processing, really bright, big dance. And it was just great. I loved it, and it was just so upbeat and positive. Again, that like upbeat, positive energy. And I love the happy, I love all the decorations. I just like Matsuri a lot. They're really cool. And that's one thing I was sad that I didn't get to see as many Matsuri as I would have liked to, because a lot of them happen in the summer, and Japanese summer is more like July, kind of August, and I was never in Japan during the month of July. Like all the times I've never been anytime during the month of July, and I've never been during the first half of August, so I missed a lot of the Matsuri prime season, but I did like what Matsuri stuff I did see. Alright, this is definitely a region-specific thing. I miss Key Coffee. I think Key Coffee itself is a chain, or was like sort of a chain. I had seen it in other places. But this particular one that was run by my host mom's old friend from kindergarten, like, I'm not kidding, they were friends, like, since they were kids, and they were still friends in their middle age. And she was great. She spoke way too fast, and I often didn't understand a word she said. Even towards the end, I still couldn't understand her super well, just because she spoke really quickly and had a thick accent. But yeah, I loved her place. It was so chill, so low-key. She had big telephone book style manga there that I could read. Her menu was delicious. I drank like hot cocoa and hot tea and iced cocoa and vegetable juice and fruit juice, and she made curry, and she made curry doria, this dish that's like leftover curry mixed in with rice, and there's like cheese on top of it, and you bake it, and it was really good. She made these cheesecakes that were delicious, and this chocolate cake that was delicious. It was just great, and I went there almost every day that I didn't go to school. And also at her coffee place, she had a dog that she kept outside, and I think that was also kind of part of the chain. There's a Shiba Inu, and she was adorable, and I always liked to pet her every time I came to visit. Another thing I miss is Minzoku Buyobu, or Japanese folk dancing club. Yeah, I mean, it was just neat learning the traditional regional Japanese folk dances of the area and performing them and dancing them in the class and learning them. Yeah. Okay, this is a big one, and it's kind of expanding upon the beef thing, but I really super miss really good Korean barbecue. I know it's weird to say that I miss, like, what I miss about Japan is really good Korean barbecue, but yeah, there aren't that many Japanese foods that I like. Of those Japanese foods that I really like are like tempura, sushi, and like ramen, yakitori, yakisoba, sukiyaki, any of those kinds of things. But yeah, ramen, I can find tons of really good ramen places near me. Sushi, I prefer American sushi, and I can find lots of really good American sushi places near me. I can find lots of great tempura and karaage and all other kinds of restaurant favorites. I can find them all around here. One thing I can't quite find is like fresh soba. I haven't really found that yet. I know if I go to San Francisco, I can probably get some there, or maybe even San Jose, Japantown. Right here, I don't think I've really found any good fresh soba. So that's one other thing. But yakiniku, I've been to a couple Korean barbecue places in America, and they just fell totally flat with me. They just weren't, there was meh. But there was pretty much every Korean barbecue place I went to in Japan was superior to every single Korean barbecue place I went to in America. But specifically, there was this one place in Mizusawa called Shokudoang, and I swear we went there once a month, and it was so freaking good. It's like the best Korean barbecue you ever could have. And yeah, it was just wonderful. The vegetables, the beef, there was so much fat in the beef. There was like more fat than meat in the beef, and I loved, my favorite things to eat there were the karubi and the tongue, the cow tongue and lemon juice. It's just so good. I'm not really a kids person. I don't want to have kids, and I don't like them exactly. Like, I like them in small doses, and I like teaching them okay, but I get kind of like, go away whenever I'm around kids. But little Japanese kids, I do miss kind of hanging out with them occasionally. One of my friends had a little daughter when I visited a couple times, and I really enjoyed playing with the Japanese kids, partly because, like, they're really outspoken. Like, Japanese people in general, if they're adults, are super not outspoken. They won't tell you their opinions, but kids will, so that's cool. I missed that. But I also missed that I could kind of have people in my same level of language understanding to talk to. That was pretty cool. This is kind of an emo one, but as a young adult, as a teenager, we all go through this phase where we like feel like, I'm so alone, nobody understands me. And I wasn't really super in that phase when I was in Japan, but I mean, everybody feels that way sometimes, right? And then you feel extra alone and bad about it if you're in your home country, and it's like, I shouldn't feel alone. I have so many friends and family and my kinsfolk around here. Like, why should I feel so alone? But if you're the only white person in your city and you're like the only person who speaks your language there, on the one hand, it can get kind of lonely, but on the other hand, it's cool because you expect to be lonely. You know that you're supposed to be lonely. You're like, well, I'm the only person who speaks English here, so of course I can't talk freely to people, and of course I can't express my true self. So in a way, I kind of had permission to feel so alone and feel misunderstood. Kind of weird, but yeah, I kind of miss that. So this is one thing that I didn't take full advantage of when I was living in Japan, and part of it's because the internet didn't really exist yet at that point, and I didn't know about a lot of these opportunities, but all of the cute feral animals in Japan that you can meet, I miss that. Yeah, in the States we have squirrels, and that's pretty cool, but in Japan they have deer, which I did meet because I went to Nara a couple times, and they have the feral cat island, and rabbit island, and fox island, just all these cool feral animals that you can meet, and they're around there, you know? But yeah, I do miss the deer. The couple times I visited them, they were pretty cool. They were like really annoying, but still fun and really cute. And then the final thing that I do miss about living in Japan, and again, it's not so much Japan, but where I lived in Japan specifically in the Tohoku region, is just how beautiful everything was, how beautiful the scenery was, the rice paddies, the mountains, the green. I live in California where we don't get very much rain, so everything's brown and dead and kind of ugly looking. But in Japan, everything's green because they get so much rain. And I just love also where I lived specifically, it was in the country, so the air was really clean. And my host sister actually, because she lived in the city, whenever she came to visit us in the country, she would say, "Ah, kuki ga oishii." It's like, it means the air is so delicious. And yeah, delicious is a really good word to describe the air there. It really was delicious, very fresh, except for the cigarette smoke. I know that there are plenty of places in the United States and all over the world that have beautiful scenery and air, but where I live specifically in Mizusawa, Japan, I do really miss that. I know a lot of the things on this list that I mentioned were not exactly specific to Japan or the area that I stayed, or some of these things are now more readily available in the States, like karaoke and good beef. But those were some of the things that I really enjoyed about my year in Japan that when I look back upon now, I think, oh, that was pretty cool, I missed that. If you've lived in another country as an exchange student or otherwise and have some things that you've missed, you can unload them in the comments section or something. That would be kind of cool. All right, I gotta go now. Bye.